He insisted that I think about it, and I did. And I remember the last project that I worked with Miriam was a documentary on the Mengele twins done by a German television. And in that documentary, there was a Nazi doctor by the name of Hans Munch. He was a Nazi doctor in Auschwitz. I immediately faxed a letter to the television station, and I asked them to give me Dr. Munch's telephone number in the memory of Miriam. And an hour later, I received a long sympathy letter and Dr. Munch's telephone number, which was a surprise to me because they refused to give it to me a year earlier. So with that, a friend of mine contacted Dr. Munch to invite him to the conference. Dr. Munch said he could not come to the conference, but he was willing to meet with me at his house near Munich. So August, about this time, 15 years ago, I was heading to Germany to meet a Nazi doctor. You have no idea how scared I was. What I knew about Nazis, Nazi doctors, I didn't want to experience. Yet, I was very curious what I might learn about our experiments, and I was curious why was this Nazi doctor willing to meet with me. I arrived at his house. He treated me with the utmost respect and kindness. And because of his treatment, I felt comfortable in talking to him and asking him a very unusual question. I asked him if he knew anything about the operation of the gas chamber in Auschwitz. And he said that this was a nightmare that he lived with every single day of his life. And as he described it, I didn't know that the gas chambers operated the way he said he witnessed it. He was stationed on the outside of the gas chambers, looking in the peephole. And then when he saw people, all of them dead, he had to sign the death certificate. Never any names, just numbers. 2,000-3,000 people at a time. I told him, this is a very important information. I want you to come with me to Auschwitz in 1995. I want you to sign a document at the ruins of the gas chamber where it happened in the company of witnesses. He said, I would love to. I didn't know it was going to be that easy. Now I get back to Terre Haute, Indiana, realizing that finally I will have the signature of a Nazi, not a Jewish survivor, not a liberator, but a Nazi who witnessed it. Because the revisionists kept saying that there were no gas chambers. People were not murdered. And I wanted to give this Nazi doctor something as a gesture of my appreciation. What does one give a Nazi doctor? How do you thank a Nazi doctor? Where does one look for a gift for a Nazi doctor? I went to the local Hallmark card shop, and I could find no card appropriate for this Nazi doctor. So the next thing, I went back to my lesson number 1, never ever give up. For 10 months, I kept asking myself, what do I give this Nazi doctor? All kinds of ideas came into my mind, and after 10 months, the following simple idea came into my mind. How about a letter of forgiveness from me to him? I knew immediately that this was a very meaningful gift. But what I discovered for myself, that I had the power to forgive. I, the little victim of almost 50 years. No one could give me that power, and no one could take it away. It was all mine to use any way I wanted. So I started writing my little letter. worked through a lot of pain, but then I realized that someday somebody might read it, and those of you who know me, my spelling is not very good. English is a beautiful language, rich language, but a very difficult one. So I contacted my former English professor, who was very excited to help me, and she said to me after a few meetings, "Now, Eva, this is very nice that you are forgiving this Nazi doctor, Munch, but you need to forgive Mengele." And I said to her, no, this is just a little letter from me to Dr. Munch. She said, "Promise me you're going to think about it." I said, okay, and I did. And I then realized that I, the little guinea pig from Auschwitz, had the power to forgive the God of Auschwitz. And I said, yes, I do have that power. Wow. And I'm not hurting anybody, so why couldn't I do that? So we arrived in Auschwitz on January 27, 1995. Dr. Munch had his daughter, granddaughter, and son. I brought my daughter and son. I read Dr. Munch's documentation of the gas chamber, and I must explain. The producers were stupid. Not those who created Forgiving Dr. Mengele, those who filmed it in 1995. Dr. Munch wanted to read his document in German. The producers wanted it read in English. He was not comfortable reading it in English, so I read it, and that is the way you see it in the documentary film. Dr. Munch signed his document, I read mine and signed it. I immediately felt a burden of pain was lifted from my shoulder, that I was no longer a victim of Auschwitz, that I was no longer a prisoner of my tragic past, that I was finally free. The day I forgave the Nazis, I looked up to the sky in Auschwitz. It was a very unusual sky, and I thought if people had souls, the souls of my parents were probably floating above there. And I forgave my parents, whom I hated all my life. And why did I hate my parents? As I was growing up, I kept saying, if my parents would have saved me from a destiny in Auschwitz, if my parents would have saved me from a destiny of growing up as an orphan, my life would have been much better, and I was right about that. But I finally understood that they did the best that they could. I forgave them, and I forgave myself for hating my parents. Forgiveness is nothing less and nothing more but an act of self-healing, an act of taking control and power back over one's life. I could even call it a modern miracle medicine. No one has to belong to an HMO. There is no copay. So everybody can afford it. There are no side effects. The only effect is that it heals you. And if you don't like the way you feel without the pain of the past, you can always take your pain back. I don't know, I cannot see the gentleman with the card to see how many minutes I have. One. Okay, because I never saw the 3. So could I have some extra? That's okay. As I came in today, I saw there is a plaque hanging in this entrance saying Tikkun Olam. Tikkun Olam, for those of you who don't speak Hebrew, it's repair the world. I don't think we need to change the world. I think that forgiveness is the best repair of the world. Congratulations, you have survived my lecture.